According to Gallup, only 14% of employees strongly agree that their performance reviews inspire them to improve. Even worse, it's believed that in a third of cases, traditional performance reviews and approaches to feedback are so bad that they actually make performance worse. In this video, I'm going to argue why, despite some of the worrying statistics, you should stick with performance reviews, and also give you some ways to make them better for everyone involved. Hi, I'm Sean Butcher and I am a culture consultant and founder of Reflect Consultancy. I work predominantly with digital agencies and other ambitious businesses to help them create cultures that bring out the best in their people. In recent times, it's been trendy to dismiss using traditional performance reviews in favour of always-on feedback. Whether it's claiming they're an outdated process or that they lead to very little in the way of change or action, a lengthy yearly, biannual or quarterly review is not always a welcome addition to people's agendas. I agree that many businesses don't get performance reviews right, and for that reason it's little wonder that it's an experience that their employees dread. And if the stats mentioned earlier are to be believed, clearly something needs to change. But I'm a firm believer that performance reviews should be something you make the time and effort to do, provided you do them well. So with that in mind, here's my 4 tips for running successful performance reviews. The first is to avoid any surprises. Let's take a look at some of the numbers. 65% of employees said they wanted more feedback. 4 out of 10 workers are actively disengaged when they get little or no feedback. Organisations are 30 times more likely to have actively engaged workers when managers focus on employee strengths. There's a 14.9% lower turnover rate in companies that implement regular employee feedback. 98% of employees will fail to be engaged when managers give little or no feedback to their workers. Of course, much of these stats are based on receiving feedback on a regular basis. If you're doing this properly, you shouldn't ever be waiting for 6 or even 12 months to be providing your employees with feedback on how to improve in their role or to highlight their unique strengths. As such, you need to treat your performance reviews as a culmination of all of the feedback you have shared across that time frame. Feedback received in the moment may be interpreted very differently to what it might be with greater time to reflect. In a good performance review, you'll instead ask questions that encourage productive, forward-looking action. The employee will have been able to think about the feedback that they have received and develop more awareness as a result. And this leads me on to point number 2, which is to focus more on the future than the past. Trawling through past feedback and reflecting on any additional thoughts that have arisen since is fine to a degree, but the real value from a performance review comes from the plans you make and the goals you set to help your employee reach their potential. I'd actually argue that you want to spend around 70 to 80% of your time in a review on forward-looking activity. If you have a culture of regular feedback in place, you don't need to trawl over old ground. That's just a waste of everyone's time. But as a leader, you can now coach your employee to consider what it is they need to focus on over the next review period to get to where they want to be from a personal and professional development perspective. Here it can also really help to have the skills and competencies, including both technical and behavioural traits, that are required of the person in that role. Having these clearly outlined and made visible to them makes expectations far clearer and analysis of performance far more objective. It also makes it easier to identify development areas which can be improved or strengths that can be built upon even further. Point number 3 is a big one, and it's to reduce bias and subjectivity. One of the most common complaints about performance reviews is that they're unfair or biased, often because they are only conducted through the lens of that employee's immediate manager. And this is a very valid point. All of us have biases, many unconscious, either that have formed more broadly over time or based on the experiences we have had with that particular individual. As such, your performance review should actively seek other ways to bring in more objectivity to the process. And there are a couple of key ways that you can do this. The first is to use peer feedback. Asking a few people from across the business who have worked closely with that person for their feedback can introduce angles on the performance that the manager may not have considered. This can then be used for any decisions around pay increases or promotions alongside the feedback received from the manager. It's important to say here that this shouldn't just be the friends of your employees, as this doesn't make things much better either. The second is to calibrate results. This is particularly important if you're wanting to use any sort of numerical rating system, or if decisions about changes to that person's role need to be made. Whilst it's important for managers to feel empowered to run the performance review process, Leaving all of the big decisions to one person does not do anything to reduce levels of subjectivity. It's also only natural that some managers will grade more generously or more strictly than others. Calibrations aim to avoid that problem with a panel of people that have a view across the business, balancing the playing field, if you like. Do these two things and explain why you're doing them, and this should provide far more confidence to your employees that subjectivity won't be an issue. The fourth and final point is for managers to be adequately trained. Of course, managers need to know how to actually run the review and the details of the process involved, but it goes beyond that. This really taps into some of the core behavioural skills that are required of great managers, such as how to have difficult conversations, asking the right questions to increase ownership and accountability, and how to set effective goals in collaboration with their employee. These are the things that, as a manager, you need to be competent and confident to do, and are core responsibilities of any role where you are looking after people. If you are a manager yourself, depending on the size of your business, you'll want to work with your people team or as a team of managers on skill, experience, and knowledge sharing, particularly if these are areas you don't feel so confident in. Or you can just get a consultant to come and help you. Employees will always remember great managers throughout their careers. They're the ones that help to coach and inspire them to take charge of their development, that give them timely feedback and direction to help them grow, and gave them the autonomy to try things, make mistakes, and learn from them, without fear of recrimination. So ensuring your managers are really confident in running the performance reviews is crucial for making this an experience that everyone enjoys and sees the value from. So there you have it, my 4 ways that you can improve your performance reviews. Avoid any surprises. Focus more on the future than the past. Reduce biases and subjectivity. And train your managers. I'd love to hear what you think. Do you have any additional tips to share? Do you just think performance reviews should get in the bin? Let me know. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you're notified of my future tips and podcasts. Take care and hopefully see you on my next video.